In, I would say, I guess, a very sensitive period, given what's playing out on social media. And I'm intrigued because I went back a year and I was looking at a conversation between a journalist, Gillian Scudder, and Gwede Mantashe, the Secretary General of the ANC, and they said that race relations in South Africa are at an all-time low. And this was a year ago. Have they dipped even lower, do you think?
Maybe they have, and the question is why? Because for me, there isn't anything new. We have been here prior to 1994. We have been there, we have been here post-1994. And almost every year, what is happening today will come to pass. What do we do? That's what is important for me. It might sound like, for those who have not been in this debate before, personally, I published on this subject in 2002. But again and again and again, we seem to go back exactly where we're not supposed to be, precisely because we are not living, or at least exemplifying in our worst conduct and comportment, the values that underpin our Constitution, namely nation building, social cohesion, and reconciliation.
All right, let's try and gauge the size of the problem if we can. Twitter is not huge in terms of representing the entire country, and some people might say that the outbursts that we're seeing on Twitter and Facebook represent a minority of people, and that generally South Africans are not like that. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say it is a fair assessment. We have come a long way, by the way. If you can take into account where we were prior to 1994 and what the Tutus and the Mandelas of this world try to do, right? Even when they pronounced and declared the Rainbow Nation, it was not necessarily correct and true at the time, but it was an aspiration, an ideal they had intended to work for. And I think it behoves you and I to say society will forever, as long as there is a human race under the sun, be experiencing racism. For me, racism is a human condition. It has been there, it will be there. What is required is ways and means, programs and projects to try to contend and to contain and to constrain it. But it is too idealistic to think that there will become a day under the sun in South Africa or beyond where humanity will not talk about racism.
Is what we're seeing at the moment, these outbursts on social media, a sense that people have had enough and that something is about to break?
Well, look, for me, I'm talking as an academic, as an intellectual. I can understand that those who are in the political space, they might be looking at it differently from I do. And I'm asking myself, those who condemn racism tend to see themselves to use racial categories and nomenclature in the process. Who's going to be ultimately not be at fault when we begin to engage these issues? I'm calling for calmer heads and for programs that would enable us to live and to realize and to achieve the ideals that imbue our Constitution. It is doable, it is achievable, but let's understand it's a human condition. In the even the most democratic country, supposedly under the sun, America, still experience outbursts of violence underpinned and undergirded by racism.
So when we talk about racism, usually we accept or we see that it's white people against black people. But we're seeing today a tweet, an employee at the Provincial Department of Sports and Arts and Culture who said that we need to do to white people what Hitler did to the Jews. Is this a possible consequence of the kind of tensions that we've seen for the past 20, 21 years post-94 coming to bear now, that maybe he's just saying things that people are thinking?
Well, he might be saying that, and unfortunate as his statement might be. But the key point for me, Peter, is let humanity accept that racism knows no color. Black, yellow, and green are capable of being racist. And racism is a mental disposition. It's a mental attitude, and you can't legislate against that. We have got sufficient common laws that could handle the concerns that we are raising today. And in calmer waters, you'll realize that there are ways and means that we can resort to contain and to contend with the situation. But I still appeal, let's not be too idealistic, because we may end up with all our courts full of people, yellow and green, and we may also constrain freedom of speech, and we may also constrain intellectual research and discourses, precisely because we are unable to find each other and be honest and sincere enough in our midst that we shall always have differences, but we might find dignified ways and means to engage and to discuss.
But we've got a long way to go. I mean, at the end of 2014, the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation released a survey that said that 47% of white South Africans didn't believe that apartheid was a crime against humanity. That's again, a little over a year ago. Just under half of the people didn't believe it was a crime against humanity. It seems that this problem is huge.
Well, it might be the Strauss crime against humanity that they don't agree with, but that it was an abominable system, political system, I'm sure very few will dispute that. And I think you and I might want to say there are those who have bolted out of the stable we mustn't worry about. St. Augustine of the Catholic Church would say, catch them young. If we invest in the youth today, in programs that will nurture them, in appreciating inclusivity, perhaps 20, 50 years down the line, this type of discussion would be redundant in our society.
All right, so these tweets that we're seeing at the moment, are they just about the issues that they represent, or do you think that it's just social media giving them an opportunity to vent deep-rooted feelings that they've been carrying for a period of time?
Yeah, I think social media is responsible for that, and I don't want to blame that. It helps us also to understand what people think, but it also invites us to begin to appreciate what the challenges we are going to experience, the new laws and ways and means of engaging. Because as long as we have social media, what we consider challenges today were not here yesteryear. Who is not going to be seen? Because I suspect the courts will take a different view from the general discourse that I hear now. Because it's like those who retort against racism tend to use racial categories themselves. Right. Is it wrong to respond to and to engage in a manner that would enable us to say, we have been at one stage yesteryear, at a point where we could not find each other, but it is possible. And these are the reasons why we were not at one point.
All right, Professor Teffo, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts and insights with us this evening on this very, very sensitive subject.